We're back again with another session of a Canadian immigration related topic in our YouTube channel. This time we will be talking about student visas or study permits. My name is Maria DeLuna. So why does someone want to come to Canada to study? Quick facts. Canada is a wonderful place to study. United Nations regularly ranks Canada top 10 in the quality of life index. Let me just put that there. Canadian immigration, it's world class. Okay, it has been ranked #1 by Organization for Economic and Development for Higher Education Achievement. We are multicultural here in Canada. Although we have official languages in English and French, there are more than 200 languages spoken here in our country. Other things to look into is the fact that a lot of innovative technologies were actually developed by people who studied in Canada. Some of those are Blackberries, the flat screen technology, smart boards, IMAX films, to name a few. A lot of people actually think of studying in Canada because of its cost compared to other countries. There are other countries that actually international students would like to go to, such as Australia, Singapore, United States, the UK, France. And when you compare their cost of living, the annual university fees, Canada is much cheaper, but the quality, if not greater, is at par with these schools. So, how do you study in Canada? When you're thinking about studying, applying for study permits, you would want to look at the proper avenue, the proper organization to help you out, right? If you're going to do it on your own, make sure you go to www.cic.gc.ca. So getting ready to study, you always have to apply with a designated learning institution, or what we call DLI. Why? If you do not have an acceptance letter from a DLI, you would not be able to get a study permit. Okay? Once you've checked the programs, you've researched the programs that you like, and you know that a designated learning institution is offering that, then the next stage would be to apply through that school, right? And once you get your acceptance letter, then you apply for your student visa application. Some foreign nationals don't need visa to come to Canada, so they will need what we call an ETA, or electronic travel authorization. If, for example, you need longer time to finish your program, then you look at the renewal of your study permit, okay? Now, those people who do not need study permits are people who have programs that has 6 months or lesser. Family of foreign representatives don't need study permits, and also the members of armed forces, registered Indians, and minor children. Minor children would most likely be those accompanying their parents who are also foreign nationals here. So when you're looking into applying for the study permit, as I've mentioned, you have to get that acceptance letter. You must have an identity document. Most of the time, those are the passport. You cannot apply for a visa without passport, okay? Proof of funds, we'll explain that later on. During the application stage, or prior to the application stage, you should have a study plan, okay? Why do you want to go to that program? Why you or to that school? Why you chose that program, etc., etc. Okay? Custodian letter, this is usually for those minor students who will be coming to Canada to study. So that does not necessarily pertain to those applying through university and college. Okay, a lot of people are thinking about this, funds. Okay. Okay, so just have a look at this funds table. You could actually look at this through the CIC website as well. And this is how you figure out what you need to show when applying for your visa, for your student visa. If you are a single student, your amount to show is 10,000, and that's additional from your tuition fee. Okay, so when people ask, how much funds do I need to show? Well, it's usually 10,000 plus whatever your tuition fee is. People would usually ask, well, how much is a tuition fee? Well, then that depends on the program and that depends on the school, okay, that you're applying for. As you noticed, some people would want their family members come with them, okay? Spouses of international students are actually allowed to apply for what we call an open spousal work permit, okay? However, if you're bringing a family member, please note that there is additional funds to show, okay? You cannot say, well, they're going to work anyway when we come to Canada. That adds our funds. No, okay? This is the basic that you have to show when applying. So when you look at further down here, it gives you an example how to calculate your funds to show. You take into account the tuition fee per year, the 10,000 for the main student or main applicant or the international student. If you're bringing a family member such as the spouse, that's an additional 4,000. If you're adding additional family member, then that's additional 3,000. Okay? Now, the big question, how do you search for a designated learning institution? Because what you want is to apply through a DLI that could actually help you get the study permit. Remember, if you're not applying through a DLI, you won't be able to get study permit for it, okay? So I'll teach you how to search for that through the Canadian immigration website. So let me just open our we go to the main site of immigration, www.cic.gc.ca. You go to the main page, and here you could actually, on the main page, you could actually see the link for studying. Okay, study in Canada. Get a study permit. Apply for studying. Now there. First things first, you have to get an acceptance letter from a designated learning institution. That is a link. You click that, and here you go. Choosing your learning institution by province, okay? So depending on where you want to go, it actually lists there. For example, let's choose Alberta, and here in Alberta, you know what I've noticed? They've added this. They've added this offers PGWP, Postgraduate Work Permit. Before, it only was until this campuses. They've put it there because a lot of international students came about 2 years ago and finished their studies and then found out that they could not get a postgraduate open work permit. So this is actually good that they have updated that. Seems like it has been modified just this month, March. So here you will be able to see the list of schools that you could actually apply to, right? And then get a study permit for it. Okay, some people does not necessarily want to stay longer in Canada, and they don't want the postgraduate work permit once they finish. But here it's actually a good way of knowing if your plan is to, you know, have a Canadian experience of after studying, then there you go. This will guide you which school you would like to go for. Okay, so yeah, this is actually good. Okay, so let's go to Ontario because a lot of people would like to go there. So see, okay, now let me tell you why some don't get postgraduate work permits, although I'll be explaining that later on further. Okay, some of these DLI, so designated learning institutions, are considered private schools, and they don't have any programs that goes towards a degree. Okay, so I'll be telling you later on how and why a person qualifies for a postgraduate work permit, but this actually makes it so much easier and simpler for people. Okay, so there you go. Okay, let's go back. So that's how you find your designated learning institutions and then applying for it. Now, you've applied for your visa, you've gone through the application, and then you're actually approved. You're here in Canada. Do you know that you're qualified to work without having to get a work permit? Students now can work without having to get an additional work permit. They can work in campus. They can actually work off campus as well. And these are the requirements, or these are how you're going to check if you're qualified to work off campus. You must have a valid study permit, okay? And you're full-time studying in a DLI or designated learning institution, and you have started studying. Some students actually come to Canada early, so at least they can, you know, adapt to the place, go, you know, look to what the city has to offer to them, familiarize themselves before starting school, right, and so on and so forth. Now, you cannot work while waiting to study or to start studying, okay? To be able to work, your program must be longer than 6 months, okay? 6 months or longer, I should say. It should lead to a diploma, a degree, a certificate. It should be a program, okay? And well, when you come here, you can apply for your social insurance number, okay? And some Service Canada centers require to see that you've started studying for them to give you a social insurance number, okay? If you are no longer full-time, you can still work off campus only if you've been full-time since you started the program, and you know, say you're studying part-time, now because you've finished your whole program, you almost finished your whole program. You cannot get full course load anymore because you're only completing some, you know, courses for your last semester. Okay, so yeah, so read through that. You can actually see that information as well through the CIC website. That's www.cic.gc.ca. Okay, who cannot work off campus? Those who are in a language program or language studies, that's the ESL or FSL. If you're only taking general interest courses that actually does not lead into a program, but it's actually to prepare you to a study program, okay? If you're a visiting or exchange student and you will not get a degree from your Canadian host school, then you cannot work off campus as well. Okay. So, if you're qualified to work off campus, then how many hours are you allowed to work? If you're currently full-time studying during regular school session, you're only allowed 20 hours, okay? But if you're currently on scheduled breaks, semestral breaks, you know, like winter, summer, holidays, you can work full-time during that time, okay? And if, for example, you finished your studies and then you have applied for your other work permit, then you can have full-time hours. Mind you, to apply for a postgrad work permit, it has to be within a 90-day period from the time you finished, okay? Okay. So, staying in Canada. Postgraduate open work permit, the one that we've been talking about earlier. Let's go back to the CIC website and then read through the postgrad work permit, okay? So postgrad work permits essentially is applied if you already finished a program, okay? However, there's some restrictions on who will be getting it. So the list of the DLI is actually a big help because it actually tells you already if there's programs within their school that can be used to apply for a postgrad work permit, okay? So postgrad work permits, you must be 18 years old to apply, must have continuously studied full-time, and the program must have been 8 months or longer, I should say. You have your document from your school that confirms you've completed the program. And here it is. Here is basically what determines if your program is qualified for the PGWP. All of the public post-secondary schools are qualified. If you've completed your program in a private school, then it should have had operated as the same rules as public school, but this usually applies through Quebec, okay? Now, this is where most of the people are getting confused when their programs are not, you know, in Quebec. If you actually studied in a private school, that private school should or can legally award degrees under the provincial law. Like it has to be a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate, okay? So it has to be a program leading to a degree. Most private schools have, and I'm not saying all private schools, most private schools will only lead to a diploma or certificate, not bachelor's, master's, or doctorate. So if you're in that situation, you won't be able to get a postgraduate work permit for your studies, okay? Now, if you're qualified to apply for a postgrad, you'd know that your school, the program that you took in your school is qualified, then you must apply within 90 days from the time you have completed, okay? There's a little note here on those who cannot apply for PGWP. As you have noticed, those who actually took part in like scholarships, awards, as you notice here, scholarship programs, there's awards given by a Canadian award program, lots of scholarships here. They do not qualify or they're not eligible for PGWP, okay? Now, how long is a postgrad work permit for? There you go. It's on that same page. When you scroll down, it will give you an idea how long your PGWP will be for, and it's usually dependent on the length of your study program. So, for example, as we've mentioned, if it's less than 8 months, you won't be able to get a PGWP. If it's more than 8 months, less than 2 years, it may be valid for the same length as your study program. If it's a 2-year program, you may be issued 3 years. If it's more than one program, okay, more than one program, a postgraduate work permit may be valid for up to 3 years. Okay, so yeah, so read through that. Now, other ways of saying permanent residence application. So once you get a postgraduate open work permit, you have to work on your permanent residence right away. A lot of provinces have their own special categories for international students, so they can retain that international student in their province. There's federal programs such as the Canadian Experience Class. It's through the express entry system. So yeah, definitely you'd have to go through, you have to be qualified. It's not automatic just because you are a student, okay? You would still have to qualify if you want to use the express entry stream. You would have to take English exams. You would have to have a certain number of skilled work experience and all those things, okay? Now, so this is basically just our pamphlet. My company also assists with study permits. So if you would like us to help you with it, our contact information is here. And you could email us as well, info@mdlservices.ca. There you go. Thank you. And we'll see you again in our next session.